Okay. Now, when it comes to Britain, what you need to know is that um, um, there's a difference between Great Britain and the United Kingdom. That's the first thing you need to know, right? When you say Great Britain, it only includes England, Scotland, and Wales. When you say United Kingdom, it includes Northern Ireland as well. Okay, so basically, I need to explain this to you. Give me a second, I will draw and show you. So basically, now when you all are watching cricket matches, you all might have seen that the English cricket fans hold this flag, which is like a red cross in the white background. Okay, so that's the English flag. But the most common flag that we are familiar with is actually the Union Jack flag, the British flag, which is a representation of Great Britain or United Kingdom, right? Okay, so it's like this. This is how the basic idea. This is the basic idea. So this part is England. This is not exactly the shape. I'm just giving you the idea. This is England. This is Wales, and this is Scotland. Okay. So this part is known as Great Britain. When you have Ireland, in Ireland, this part is the northern part, Northern Ireland, and you have the Republic of Ireland. Now here's the thing: Ireland was occupied by the British, and when it comes to independence, the Southern Irish people said they want to be a republic. The Northern Irish people said they like to stay as a part of in a union with the British people. So England, Wales, and Scotland and Northern Ireland together we call it United Kingdom. Understand? Got it? Tell me if anyone didn't get it, if anyone needs a second explanation. All cool. Right. So this is the basic idea. Now, when you say Great Britain, it includes England, Scotland, and Wales. And when it comes to Ireland, the northern part of Ireland said that they want to stay a part of Britain and like be in a union with them. So when you take Great Britain and Northern Ireland together, you call it United Kingdom. That Union Jack flag represents this. Now that you can see that Great Britain itself is a combination of three areas: England, Scotland, and Wales. And when you say United Kingdom, it includes one more. It includes Northern Ireland also. But you can see that these areas are different from one another, right? So because of that, you need to introduce devolution of power because there are different areas. Now you know that there are three mechanisms you can follow inside unitary state to divide power without compromising unitary nature. You have deconcentration, decentralization, and devolution. So England, Wales, and Scotland and Northern Ireland were given devolution of powers in terms of power sharing. Okay, so now here's the thing: Scotland has somewhat of an identity. Scotland has their own like unique flag. and Scottish people have their own identity. Scottish team has their own cricket team. So Scottish people have been more consistent on asking for more powers. Compared to that, Welsh people in Wales, they do have a flag and all. They do have their own um, identity, yes, but they don't have a cricket team or any of that, and they are not that interested in um, asking for power. And when you have Northern Ireland, that's somewhere in between. They are not intense as the Scottish people asking for power, but they are not that cool as the Welsh people either. So they're somewhere in between. So because of this, in Great Britain also, you have asymmetric power sharing. Asymmetric powers are given in different levels. Now, example, Scotland is given their own small parliament, right? Compared to that, Wales is not, because Wales is not asking for that much of powers. So Scotland is given vast powers. Wales is not given much of powers. Northern Ireland is somewhere in between, right? So this is the basic idea you need to have in mind, that they have asymmetric power sharing, and you need to know some stuff about the history. Now, Scottish people have been conquered by the English for a long time. If you all have heard of a movie called Braveheart, there's a movie called Braveheart, and that's about this person who fought for Scottish independence. So the Scottish English rivalry goes way back. Scottish people always wanted to be separate, and they haven't been allowed. And now in Scotland, there's a movement for a free Scotland, who says that Scotland should be a free country. And because of that, in terms of power devolution, Scotland is given like a reasonable portion of powers. Compared to that, Wales is not much. Okay. Other than that, the basic things you all know about the British government. You all know the British government has a cabinet system, and the Queen has a nominal executive. They have a bicameral legislature, House of Lords, House of Commons. Those stuff that you guys are already aware of. Okay. Other than that, this lesson is mainly consisted of what sort of a historical development this Scottish English rivalry, Welsh English rivalry, and Irish English rivalry has, and the fact that it is asymmetric power sharing, and what sort of specific powers each territory has been given. Example, Northern Ireland, what sort of a power they have, and them having their own National Assembly of Wales, and etc. Right? And Scotland
Sir,
having, yes,
so can I ask a question?
yeah,
No,
sure.
please don't call me if it's stupid. Um, sir, is Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland like a combination of states?
Not
Or is it
exactly.
like...
No, it's like this, right? Back then, the two states in this English Channel used to be, this area is called English Channel. Back then, the two states used to be Great Britain and Ireland. Okay, so when you say Great Britain, it was a combination of England, Wales, and Scotland, right? Those three. They were never three separate sovereign states. The sovereign state was Great Britain, right? If you all have seen Johnny English, the movie, right? Johnny English 1, the one where, like, the French guy comes and steals the throne and all, right? So in that, there's this, in the crowning ceremony, that three bishops come and say that they accept the king as their king. So one guy says, for Scotland, I do. And the second guy says, for Wales, I do. And then, the third bishop, it's not the third bishop, it's actually, Mr. Bean, that he's disguised as the person, as Johnny English. And he puts the robe down. He's like, for England, I do not, because this man is a thief, right? If you remember that scene, that those three people, three bishops have to admit the king or the queen you have is for Great Britain. So England is not one sovereign state. Scotland is not one sovereign state. Wales is not one sovereign state. The sovereign state actually is Great Britain, right? So when you say Great Britain, it includes England, Wales, and Scotland, all three. So other than that, there was Ireland right next to it. Now in Ireland, the British people occupied Ireland for a while. And then when it comes to independence, Southern Irish people wanted independence. Northern Irish people, no, they said that being a part of Britain is better. So because of that, they sort of had to split Ireland and call Southern Ireland the Republic of Ireland, which is independent Ireland. And the Northern Ireland wanted to stay in a union. So Great Britain was already established, which was Scotland, Wales, and England. And Northern Ireland joined a union with those. And Great Britain and Northern Ireland, you call it United Kingdom. United Kingdom is the union. Got it, Ketu?
Yes, sir. So this independence they want is for a sovereign nation.
Yes, yes. Scottish people have been fighting for a while, asking for to become a sovereign nation. Right now, if you look at a British passport, it says the passport for Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Great Britain and Northern Ireland together, they call it United Kingdom. That's why. Right? Understand? Okay. So now that in this union in UK, in United Kingdom, the powers are divided asymmetrically, because pretty much that they are asking for powers in three different extents, right? So that's what you need to be aware of. There are specifics in this note how the powers are given. So the only way to find out is by reading. Okay. Right. So Ketu, let's start. Let's start by reading Great Britain. Right. Number 1, Great Britain. From that point onwards, read until the last part of the next page. Okay. Then you have an explanation of how powers are divided in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Those 3 parts, Kezia should read. Then the factors that led to devolution of UK. It's basically an explanation of what led to this point. And after that, there's an overview. So Milinda can read that part. Okay, Ketu, start.
Changing unitary models, Great Britain and Sri Lanka. Under this heading, we will discuss the British and Sri Lankan systems of the government. Both had the classical unitary constitutional models. In fact, the Sri Lanka's first post-independence constitution was designed according to the British unitary constitutional model, and it continued unchanged until 1987. However, as we will see later, in both Britain and Sri Lanka, a system of power sharing called devolution has been introduced to the unitary constitution. Thus, the British and Sri Lankan systems of government no longer represent the classical unitary model in its pure form. Great Britain. Theoretically, the British government is based on a unitary constitution. Britain has an unwritten constitution, and therefore the government system is based mostly on constitutional traditions. However, the British unitarism is now changing. The key feature of the unitary model is having one authority. The central or national government as the sole and overarching governmental power to make laws and implement the throughout the country in a uniform manner. In order to understand the changes and transformations in the British constitutional government, let us begin by understanding its basic characteristics. British Constitution, nature and basic features. Britain does not have a written constitution, and this is a unique feature. When there is a written constitution, all the other laws are subordinate to the constitution. Although there is no written constitution, the British political system has a body of rules to govern the use of power and guide state-citizen relations. Long-standing traditions and conventions are also part of the British Constitution. Some of such conventions have been given legal recognition. Examples are Parliament Act of 1911, which limited the term of office of MPs to 5 years, and Queen's ministers are answerable to the Parliament. The institutional composition of British government includes A. Parliament, B. Government led by Cabinet, C. Courts, D. Crown, E. Civil Service, and F. Devolved institutions of power in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The British government is also guided by several important principles. They are rule of law, parliamentary sovereignty, and collective responsibility of the cabinet. There are also laws and traditions that regulate the function of the British government institutions. They are normal laws, constitutional principles, and traditions derived from the common law. Background: the unitary model. Britain is also known as the United Kingdom. It consists of four historically evolved separate kingdoms: England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland. The Great Britain, as we know it today, came into being in 1707 when the Kingdom of England, which included the Wales, and the Kingdom of Scotland became politically united. Ireland became a part of Britain in 1800, and after Ireland became independent in 1921 and formed the Republic of Ireland. The northern part of Ireland, called Northern Ireland, remained with the United Kingdom. Traditionally, Britain was considered a unitary state. In a unitary state, the legal authority flows from one single source. Political power is centralized in the national government. Lower levels of government derive their authority from the central government and not from the constitution, as in federal systems. In a unitary system, there is a local government, but the local government institutions function subordinate to the national government as an agency of the national government. Central government can take back the powers given to the local government. Unitary models are generally suited to societies without ethnic, linguistic, cultural, or geographical diversities and divisions. Thus, the unitary state structure does not reflect diversity and heterogeneity in the society. It assumes society to be homogeneous. If we take UK and France as examples of the European unitary states, we can see significant differences of the two. In Britain, ethnic identities and differences are stronger than in France. Ethnic diversity is a part of the historical legacy of Britain. Because these ethnic and regional identities, Britain has a multi-ethnic nation from the beginning. British citizens have Irish, English, Welsh, and Scottish ethnic identities as well. France, in contrast, is ethnically homogeneous. Laws passed by British Parliament covers the entire United Kingdom. However, sometimes it has passed laws that were not meant for Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. The Great Britain, United Kingdom has not been so united historically. Northern Ireland had a separatist movement until the 1990s. Scotland now has a strong independent movement. Wales has an ethnic nationalist movement. Thus, the United Kingdom's unitary state model had to deal with ethnic politics. That explains why it has moved away from the unitary model by incorporating regional autonomy through devolution.
Scotland has a population over 5.1 million and one-third of the territory of Britain. England and Scotland came under the English crown in 1603. England and Scotland became united in 1707, marking the establishment of the United Kingdom of Great Britain. Under the Treaty of 1707, the Scottish Parliament was abolished and absorbed into the British Parliament. When uniting with United Kingdom, the Scots agreed to accept the laws passed by the British Parliament, but they wanted to keep their Presbyterian Church and religious identity separate. Thus, Scotland maintained its separate cultural identity within the United Kingdom. The Scots also wanted to maintain their judicial system and courts intact within the United Kingdom. Scotland, even under the United Kingdom, had a strong nationalist movement seeking autonomy from England and within the United Kingdom. In 1998, the British government agreed to grant Scotland autonomy through devolution. As a part of the new devolution arrangement, the Scotland Act of 1998 created the Scottish Parliament. Devolution in Scotland, notwithstanding the Scottish nationalist movement for separation, continues. The separatist Scottish Nationalist Party won the majority of Scottish Parliament at the 2011 election and intensified the separatist effort by calling for a referendum in 2014. However, 55% of Scottish voters opposed separation, and Scotland remains within the United Kingdom with a strong nationalist movement. Wales. Wales is the smallest political unit of Great Britain with a 1/12 of its territory and 5% of the population. Wales came under the England crown during the 13th century. It became a part of Great Britain in 1707. The British Government of London administered Wales through the Department of Wales. There was a minister in charge. Wales. Wales was also represented in British Parliament. Wales too had a nationalist movement seeking local autonomy since the 19th century. The British government granted devolution to Wales in 1998 through Government of Wales Act. Under devolution, Wales has its own regional government called the Wales Assembly Government. The legislative functions are devolved to the Wales Assembly. Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland's territory is 50,000 square miles and the population is 1.7 million, which is about 2.5% of the total British population. Northern Ireland has been under the English crown since the 16th century. The entire island became a part of Britain in
Kezia,
1800s.
can you pause for a
Yes,
second?
sir. Yeah. Of nationalist politics. Ireland gained independence from Britain and became an independent republic in 1922. Out of 32 countries of Irish people, 26 joined the republic. The remaining 6 stayed with Britain as Northern Ireland. The campaign for Home Rule continued in Northern Ireland. A separate parliament was formed for Northern Ireland in 1920. It existed till 1970. It had paved the way for a system of devolution with a bicameral legislature. Northern Ireland population was divided between Christian Protestants and Catholics. While Protestants wanted to remain with Great Britain through a union, Catholics wanted independence from Britain. This later developed into a conflict between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland. Many unsuccessful attempts were made to resolve the conflict between Catholic and Protestant populations in Northern Ireland. The peace process in Northern Ireland began during the 1980s and led to the Good Friday Peace Agreement of 1998. With the Northern Ireland Act of 1998, the Northern Ireland Assembly became Northern Ireland Parliament. Factors that led to devolution in the United Kingdom. The rise of regional ethnic nationalisms in Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland seeking self-rule is the main reason for devolution in the United Kingdom. One second. Theoretically, the meaning of devolution is the sharing of power by the central government with the political units in the periphery. As a constitutional principle, devolution as a framework of power sharing is less than federalism in its scope and extent. At the parliamentary election of 1974, 6 MPs from the Scottish National Party were elected. It posed a challenge to the traditional support base of the Labour Party in Scotland. This marked the intensification of the campaign for devolution for Scotland. The Labour Party argued since the 1990s that the only way to ensure that Scotland remained with the UK was granting Scotland devolution. The failure of British policies towards Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland was also a major reason. People in the three provinces began to feel that they would be better off with devolution. Thus, the Scottish Act of 1998 was enacted and the Scottish Parliament was established in 1999. Devolution was granted to Wales as well as in 1998. When we compare the Scottish devolution with Wales, we can see that Scotland has greater devolution. While the Wales legislature is called Assembly, the Scottish legislature is called Parliament. Thus, devolution in Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales is done according to a system of asymmetrical power sharing. It means that the degree of devolution the three provinces have are not similar. Critics point out that devolution has eroded the traditional centralized and unitary state in Britain. Extent of devolution. The powers given to Scotland, Northern
Okay, hold
Ireland,
on,
and
hold on.
Wales under
Hold on,
devolution.
pause. Melinda,
Okay, sir.
extent of devolution, your turn. Millie, are you here? Ah, his mic doesn't work. Sorry, I forgot. So, Ketu, you take from there then.
Extent of devolution. The powers given to Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales under the devolution are as follows. Scotland. Extensive powers in the following subjects: criminal law, education, environment, health, judicial appointments, local government, police, and transport. Scottish Parliament has power to increase or reduce income tax by 3 pennies per sterling pound. Westminster Parliament has retained certain powers such as defence and foreign policy. Wales. The National Assembly of Wales had initially been granted powers to enact only subordinate laws. That meant it could pass laws only to implement policies already decided by the Parliament in London. This was a reduced level of powers compared with Scotland. There has been a demand for more powers for the Welsh Assembly to pass its own laws. In 2011, more powers were given so that the Welsh Assembly can pass legislation on devolved subjects without consulting the Westminster Parliament. This followed a referendum held in 2010 on powers of the Welsh Assembly. Welsh Assembly has the legislative power over 20 subjects that include agriculture, fisheries, education, environment, health, transport, and highways, local government, and social welfare. The Welsh Assembly also has full powers over money allocated for Wales. Northern Ireland. The degree of power of Northern Ireland falls between the powers devolved to Scotland and Wales. Northern Ireland legislature is called Northern Ireland Assembly, while in Scotland it is called Parliament. It has full powers to make laws on subjects such as health, economic development, environment, education, agriculture, social services, housing, local government, transport, culture, and sports, judiciary, and police. Overview. Overall, we can say that the evolving constitutional government in Britain has moved away from the traditional unitary framework. But it is not a federal model. It is a hybrid model in which a unitary state adopts some features of federalism in order to give the peripheral units certain self-government powers. This system is called devolution. We can also see that in Britain, devolution provides asymmetric system of power sharing. Britain has also allowed regional ethnic identities along with the national identity. Finally, Britain is becoming a hybrid constitutional system with features of both unitary and semi-federal models. The end.
Right. Okay. Now, when you say it's a hybrid constitutional system, don't let this confuse you. Now, example, when we talk about executives, you guys remember that there are two types of executives, Westminster and Cabinet, and then you have hybrid executives. So when you say a hybrid executive, it's an entirely completely different system. What we have in Sri Lanka is no cabinet, no presidential. The hybrid is an entire new breed of executive. But here it's different. Here, when you say Britain is becoming a hybrid constitutional system with both unitary and semi-federal models, that doesn't mean that this is an entirely unique system. It's still a unitary system. Okay, unitary federal, it falls inside one of those. But you can say you are semi-federal. You can say you are confederate. You can say you are typically federal. Whatever, it comes as a federal system. You can say you are a centralized unitary system, or you are a unitary system with reforms where you have some devolution of powers. After all, you are unitary. Okay, so Britain is still a unitary system, but it is adopting reforms to apply more and more devolution of power, because especially they need to keep Scotland satisfied. Northern Ireland is also sort of like there, and Wales is not a problem. But you can see that they were given national assemblies. The National Assembly of Scotland was turned into the Scottish Parliament. The National Assembly of Wales, and it's still there. And the National Assembly for Northern Ireland is also currently a parliament. So then, no, Northern Ireland, I think it's still National Assembly. It's not a parliament. But the Scottish one is called a parliament because they are given quite broad powers, and it is asymmetrical power sharing because they are expecting powers in different extents. Okay, right. Then we have to study about the Sri Lankan system, which is going to be very easy because we already know we studied this under the 13th Amendment. Does anyone have questions regarding Britain? I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, cool. Then let's take a 5 minutes break. We'll start Sri Lanka at about 4:22. Yes, Millie.